that bitch. Jump in that. Jump in that fire.
Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about how to protect yourself spiritually and physically. Well, first, what you want to do is address which type of situation you're dealing with. If you're dealing with a situation in which someone is putting magic on you, that is most definitely going to have an effect on what tools you're going to be having to acquire or put into place to protect yourself, versus if you're dealing with a physical manner in which somebody is bothering you at work or something of that nature. And sometimes both can be used interchangeably depending on what the situation really is. So, for example, if you are dealing with a situation in which someone is throwing work at you, or you have walked into an environment and you're a psychic or an empath, whatever, and you are feeling certain negative energies that are affecting your life, when you're dealing with a situation like that, you're going to want to turn to your baths, or even cleansing yourself with smudging techniques, incense, things of that nature. So for example, sage is one of those things. A lot of people might use it for cleansing a home, or even cleansing and consecrating certain objects. But what a lot of people don't realize is that you can use sage or any other form of incense, like frankincense or whatever else, myrrh and various others, to actually cleanse yourself. So for example, you take the sage, you want to go around your whole body with it, or if you're doing an incense stick, you might put it on the floor and let the smoke rise up and cleanse your spirit, cleanse your body. Methods like that is typically only going to work for spiritual attacks. Like I said, whether that be magic or negative energy or whatever other situation you might potentially be dealing with. Even backfires when you've done some work and it's backfiring on you. Baths, I don't have a bath on me right now, but taking a bath is another form of doing things. When you take a bath, you're cleansing your aura, you're cleansing your energy. Some people may even say that you're cleansing your astral body, and your astral body is what is actually, that's a whole separate video. I don't even want to get into that. I'm gonna do a whole separate video on astral bodies and things of that nature. But baths, yes, that cleanses your spirit. So if you're taking a cleansing bath, protection bath, there's various baths, but mainly when you're dealing with spiritual forces, a bath is the way to go. A lot of times too, as well, you can have a mojo bag. Mojo bags are good for spiritual attacks as well, depending on who made it and how it's been made. A lot of times mojo bags can also be used for physical manners as well. So it's one of those things that's interchangeable. So another thing, matter of fact, 1 second. Sigils. You can use a sigil such as this, depending on the spirit, to make sure that you're protected spiritually as well. Some spirits are good for spiritual protection, some aren't. So depending on how you consecrated your sigil, whether that be a sigil that's directly connected to a spirit or a sigil that is connected to an elemental force. So, you got Solomon's sigils, you have planetary sigils or planetary symbols that all are able to protect you on a spiritual level. Now let's get into physical ways of protecting yourself. From my experience, I know a lot of people might disagree with this, but I'm just saying from my experience, incense, incense baths are not really good for physical protection, ways of physically protecting yourself. If you want to physically protect yourself, you're going to want to go with tangible items, such as, like I said, it could be a mojo bag, it can be a consecrated ring, a consecrated, what else do people use? If you're into Ifa or Santeria, it can be a consecrated eleke. You can also do medallions. Sigil is another way of doing things. So like I said, the sigil that I held up earlier, this is a great way of being protected on a physical level, depending on the spirit that it is. Another method of doing things, candles. You can always physically protect yourself with a candle, because let's say you have an adversary at your job or whatever place you might be residing and that person is bothering you. You light a candle on them, you can either get that person out of your environment, or if you want to retaliate, and get retribution, you could do it that way. Now, I know what many people are going to ask, where does prayer come into all of this? For a lot of spiritualists, prayer is a big factor in regards to how they operate, especially if you are a root worker or you do hoodoo. Prayer, a lot of times the Psalms is a big way in which people, utilize it to protect themselves. Prayer for me, I would say you have to know what you're dealing with. So if someone's throwing work at you, a lot of times prayer isn't going to be enough, depending on what it is that they're throwing at you. So that's why I say you got to know what it is that's being thrown at you. If it's magic, a lot of times prayer isn't enough. It will still hit you. Unless you're doing consistent prayers and it's 24/7 and you know exactly the specific deity to pray to and how to pray, because those are those are things that are very, how do I put it, important. The words you say in your prayer, how you're saying your prayer, what you might be holding while you're praying, the spirit in which you're praying to, all these things are various factors to making sure that your prayer is working and you're going to get the most out of said prayer. And so when it comes to spiritual attacks, prayer can help, but you got to know how to do it. Physical means, prayer can work as well. But again, it's also one of those things that you have to keep doing it over and over again. Pray without ceasing, praying consistently, praying every day. So if you're not into that, then I would say if you're dealing with any form of spiritual or physical issues or attacks, prayer is most likely not the way to go unless you have the desire to be consistent with it. Another thing I forgot to mention in regards to spiritual protection. One second. I know people are going to be like, why didn't you get all your tools out before you started the video? The video was spur of the moment, so don't judge me. Give me a second. Gemstones. So gemstones are especially good for spiritual protection as well. Physical, you have to, if you want to handle it physically, you're gonna have to know how to consecrate the gemstone the correct way, and you have to know the specific gemstone that can protect you physically. But spiritually, gemstones are especially good for spiritual protection as long as you know the right gemstone to use. So this one right here is amethyst. Amethyst is good for spiritual clarity, but if consecrated and put into the right metal, it can exceptionally be good for spiritual protection as well. So again, with gemstones and again with any of these tools, nothing works without consistency. A lot of people take a spiritual bath and they think they're one and done, or they do a smudging over their body, over their spirit, and they think it's one and done, or they consecrate their crystal and they think it's one and done. Not realizing when it comes to spiritual protection, unless you're serving spirits, and even then sometimes, you have to be consistent with this stuff. You don't, because if somebody's coming at you or they're bothering you and they're being consistent, what I see a lot of times is the person who's being attacked thinks, oh, they can just do this thing one time and that's going to get rid of the person. They're being more consistent than you. What do you think is going to happen? Who do you think is going to win this battle? Let's be honest. So I don't care if it's a candle, incense, gemstone, prayer, bath, sigil, whatever. I don't care what none of it is. None of it's going to profit nothing unless you're consistent with it. You got to be consistent. You got to do it over and over again, ritualistically, incorporate it into your life so that you can make sure you're staying on top of everything and you're not going to get caught lacking. Because you never know. You never know. That one time you didn't do a bath or didn't do a candle, now something that slipped through the cracks and it got you. It is what it is. That's all for this video. Like, share, and subscribe.